Is it? Do you think that might be the cause of it? Is the shape of our galaxy, the energy behind our galaxy having that shape, sort of like
No, I
down?
mean, it turns out, again, speaking of design and not design, if you take a gas of particles, uh, relatively uniform gas, spherical gas of particles, and have it collapse, if they have interactions like our matter does, that will then collapse down into a pancake, and if it has angular momentum, it'll produce a disc-shaped galaxy. So there's nothing. It's beautiful to look at, but if you on a computer just put gravity in and allow particles to collapse, you'll get that structure. So it doesn't require any magic finger to be making it. I mean, snowflakes are beautiful, right? And they
Oh
look like Christmas ornaments, but all you need are the laws of electromagnetism and polar molecules, and boom, you create snowflakes.
yeah, I think it's more of like in hindsight, looking back and saying, "Look, everything looks like this, therefore it was created that way."
Yeah,
So
I mean, but again, it's putting the cart before the horse. I would have used
right,
another way of saying it, perhaps otherwise, but it's putting the cart before the horse. It's saying, hey, these structures are similar, therefore there must be design. But the other thing you could say is, hey, these structures are similar, and there's simple laws that always produce those structures. Hey, it demonstrates that the simple laws govern nature.
yeah.
Boom.
So now I want to talk about. I don't know how much you know or don't know about this. Is the simulation hypothesis?
Okay, okay, I
It's
know about
tossed
it.
around a lot. Is there anything to this? Like, is there any credibility?
I think it's kind of vacuous to me. First of all, I see no evidence of it. Usually in simulations, um, there are bits or pixels that don't work, and and they'd be manifest here as little regions where the laws seem to break down around us, or the laws of physics. And except maybe in Donald Trump's head, the rest of the world works in pretty well ways. And that's the first thing. The second thing is it begs the really interesting question. Okay, so we're a simulation. Did the beings who created the simulation, are they a simulation? Because they must be more complex than us, right? So are they a simulation? And if they're not a simulation, they evolved from laws of physics that allow them to fall. So it doesn't resolve any questions. It's like turtles all the way down. Moreover, as a physicist, in some ways, it doesn't matter to me, because my interest is in discovering the laws that govern the world in which we live, and that's and if it's a fake world, that's irrelevant in some sense to being a physicist. Finding some irregularities that might point out that it's a fake world would be interesting, but there is no such evidence of that. So I don't see that the simulation hypothesis adds anything, nor do I see any evidence of it. It's not impossible, but it doesn't add anything. It doesn't add anything that I can think of. It doesn't answer any questions. It doesn't make things simpler to understand, because once again, it's just like God. You have a God. Well, who created that God? Okay, and again, a simulation. So we're a simulation. Are the people who created the simulation also a simulation? Is the simulations all the way down?
It's an infinite simulation.
Yeah.
So and that's funny because you bring that up. It reminds me of like deism, the deist arguments, and a lot of times fundamentalists will hide behind those arguments, like, "Oh, look, it's possible. You don't know what happened before the Big Bang,
Sure.
therefore," and they'll
We
jump
don't.
all the way to
And
the
let me
therefore
repeat
Bible.
what I often say, and you've heard me say it before, which is that lack of understanding is not evidence for God; it's evidence of lack of understanding.
Exactly.
Let's make that quite clear. And it invites us to try and understand, and that's the reason I became a scientist.
Yeah, and it's been, if you look at the history of how the goalpost has been being moved
Yeah.
from geocentrism to like the it was the church that fought that. It's like, no, the sun, we don't revolve around the sun. We're the center of everything. And then
They fought it, although they probably knew it was untrue, but they fought it because they had
right,
good observatories. So
yeah,
they probably were the only ones to know it wasn't true.
there's actually some evidence to show that there's people who thought that the sun was the center of the earth or center of the universe long before that was established by whatever by just
Oh yeah, there was evidence of that, and the church, as I say, had good observatories. They probably some of them, other than Galileo, probably had suspicion, or Copernicus. But the history, and I've written about this years and years ago. But the history of science, or the history of humanity, is to remove us ever further from the center, ever further. We thought we were the center of the solar system. We're not, but the sun's not the center of the universe. It's not. It's just at a random out suburban neighborhood of our galaxy, but our galaxy isn't the center of the universe. It's in a cluster of galaxies, and it's orbiting around a rather dense cluster, and that dense part of our cluster is not the center of the universe. So we keep getting moved more and more away from the center of the universe, and then in other ways we're being removed from the center of the universe. We've discovered that the matter that makes you and I up is just a small fraction of what's really out there in the universe. So we're kind of we get more and more irrelevant the more we study the universe, and that's good. That's fine. That shouldn't make us upset. It should make our existence more marvelous, not less marvelous.
Right. And so that's what I've noticed is that when I look at history and look at like the what we know, everything we don't know is where the theist arguments try to dominate.
A lot of the gaps you're talking about, yeah.
Exactly. And that's really what it is. Like, just because you don't know something doesn't mean therefore the Quran is true or therefore the New Testament.
Exactly. I know that's
from there to there.
That's why I made that statement. It's really not understanding anything. It does not represent anything about what you don't understand. I
think Neil deGrasse Tyson's right when he says that when we try to fill in the gaps, because I used to be like, well, what's the harm in filling in the gaps with our own beliefs? Whatever, it just feels good. But he made a good point where he said it gets us to stop thinking about these things and we stop trying to discover more.
Well, there's two things. That's one of the points. God is a convenient way to stop thinking, right? I mean, if there ever comes a perplexing question, you say God did it, and that's the same as saying stop thinking, or as Ricky Gervais would go, it's like doing that. but it's also got another unfortunate consequence, which is that if you believe things that are not the case, that don't support the evidence of reality, then you're likely to make decisions based on those beliefs, which are poor decisions, and so it leads to actions which are often contrary to the best interests of yourself and other people. It leads you to believe that homosexuality is a sin or something like that, and so that's the other negative side effect. The first one, that it stops inquiry, and the second, that it can cause reasonable people to do unreasonable things. The late Steve Weinberg, again, that Nobel Prize-winning physicist, used to say, and I paraphrase him because I can never get it exactly right. He more or less used to say, there's good people and bad people. Good people do good things, bad people do bad things. When good people do bad things, it's religion.
Wow, that's a good point. And another I was thinking about while you were saying that is that when you start with a worldview that's based on religion, you have to find whatever evidence you get and sort of make it malleable and make it fit that. You can't be like in the scientific method, you can't have a bias at all. But
you can. The point is, no, look, let's make it quite clear. Scientists have biases, but the scientific method, as you point out, the process of doing science is designed to catch those biases. It's designed based on the fact that it knows that individual scientists have biases. So the methodology works recognizing that, to catch those biases and overcome them, but as a group structure, to recognize that your results have to be tested by others, and your biases can be checked, and so the whole social or sociological process of science and the scientific method is designed to overcome the known fact that humans, including scientists, and scientists are human, have biases.